Number one, we're going to cover the best target market in terms of actual business consulting. There's a certain little set. Hey everybody, Frank Kern here, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm going to call this one the new era of business consulting, and here's what we're going to cover. Number one, we're going to cover the best target market in terms of actual business consulting. There's a certain little segment of the business world that is really ripe with opportunity. So I'll share that with you. We're going to talk about what that little segment really wants, which is awesome. And then I'm going to share with you how to make sure that that segment gets great results by using a model of delivering consulting service that's called the Sandor model. It's something I invented, and it works really, really well to get people results. I'm also going to show you, I know this is going to sound strange, but I'll show you why it makes sense to be the cheapest high-ticket person in the world. Yeah, I know it's weird, but trust me, it'll make sense when I show it to you. And I'll also show you how I personally get clients, and I'll walk you through a process that's working very well for me, and hopefully you'll find it useful, and you might want to model that. And when we're done, at the end, I'll talk to you about getting certified to use the Sandor model to get people results, and why that might make sense for you. So let's go ahead and get cracking. Here's who this is for. If you currently sell or you want to sell coaching or consulting to businesses, then this is going to be particularly helpful to you. Even if you own something like an ad agency and you just want a better level of ways to service your clients and maybe even have another thing to offer them, this is also something that could be very, very beneficial to you. If you're currently doing any sort of coaching or consulting to small business and you want to increase your fees without having a lot of resistance, this can help you. If you want to close more clients without chasing them or trying to look cool or using any high pressure stuff that's unpleasant, then this is definitely going to help you, especially when I show you how to get clients. I think you're really going to like that. And if you're profoundly dedicated, which I hope you are, to getting amazing results for your clients, then when I teach you that Sandor model, I think you're really, really, really going to benefit from that. So a lot of good stuff here for you. So that's who this is for. Here's who it's not for. I don't know how to get rich quick. So this isn't a get rich quick presentation. If you want to get rich quick, I don't blame you. I do too, but I can't show you how to do that. If you're looking for something that's fast and easy or some little loophole type system, this is not one of them. What I'm going to share with you requires dedication and skill and work. And it's kind of how success usually happens, you know. And this is not for the incestuous looper crowd, which is a really strange thing now that I say it out loud. I know that sounds weird, so here's what that means. I know you probably got this from being on my list, how you heard about this class, or maybe you saw it on social media or something. And I'm sure you've seen your share of the social media things, which is like, hey, watch this webinar on Facebook that teaches you how to sell high ticket stuff by creating a webinar that's advertised on Facebook that teaches people how to sell high ticket stuff by creating you get it, right? The loop. So that's not what this is. This is genuinely about actual business consulting and specifically about getting amazing results for clients, which makes getting them a lot easier. So if you don't know me, here's a mercifully brief introduction. My name is Frank Kern. I've been doing this stuff since 1999. October of 1999, to be specific. I actually do consulting in the real world. I earn 7 figures annually from actually doing it, not from selling courses about it, but literally doing it. My clients range from attorneys, like tax prep and stuff like that, accountants, technology firms, home services companies, medical practices, filmmakers. I have 2 of those, interestingly, authors, real estate brokers, you get it, right? So everything that we're going to see today is currently being used in the real world with real businesses. And the reason I bring that up is there are plenty of places you could get advice about getting consulting clients and the consulting business. And I think it's important to really look and see if the people you're getting advice from actually do real honest to God consulting outside of teaching how to do consulting. I'm sure they're all great. However, if I were taking some advice about a certain type of business, I would want to get the advice from people who are actually doing that kind of business. So I really do this kind of stuff and a lot of it. I don't even break down how it all works for you. So you can model what I do if you want to. Okay, so let's go ahead and start digging in here. I want you to write this down and keep it handy. It's just three things. It's nothing particularly hard here. Number one, how much do you want to charge per client? And I know this, like, there's a lot of reactions this gets. Number one, it can be, I don't know, I've never thought of it. And number two is like, well, I want to charge this, but, and then all this self-doubt stuff creeps up. That's okay. Whatever you want to charge, nobody's looking. Write down whatever it is you actually want to charge per client. There's no wrong answer to this thing. Okay, got that? Cool. So next step is write down how much you want to earn over the next 12 months from doing business consulting services for people. And so whatever that is fine, right? And if you've never thought of it before, just make up something. This is your time to be like, okay, it would be cool to make X amount of dollars. And whatever that amount is totally good. It's your call, So we need to know those two numbers, though, because once you know them, we can then figure out, all right, how many clients do you need in order to hit your goal, right? And so you figure that out by taking this amount right here, how much you want to earn over the next 12 months, and then you divide it by how much you're going to charge each client, and you get how many clients you need. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because as we go through how to deliver service to clients, how to get them results, how to attract and sell clients, I want you to have that number in mind. So we have an actual target to work towards, So that's all. That was the end of the hard part of this. Okay, so let's get started. So step number one in really doing well as a business consultant and having a good life and enjoying your job is to target the right clients. So if you've ever done this kind of stuff before and you've run into situations where people are like, oh, it sounds good, but I just don't have any money, and you're not getting paid what you want, and you're meeting a lot of price resistance and all that, it's probably because you're not targeting the right clients, which is an easy mistake to make, and I've done it myself. So here's who you really want to target, okay? The ideal target, if you're doing the type of consulting that I'm going to talk about today, which is ultimately consulting in the area of how to increase profits. So that's the type of consulting I do. The ideal target client for you is a small business, owner operated, not a big corporation, but something where there's an owner, like a little family business or whatever, and they're doing over $1 million in revenue. So like that $1 to $20 million range is perfect clients. Really, really perfect clients, easy to get good results for. And I'll tell you why in a minute. What's really cool is there's a huge opportunity right now because there are a lot of them. So I've got this little chart here and this little statistic on screen. According to the research I did and what you're seeing on screen here, there are 30.2 million small businesses in the United States alone. So that's just here in the US. It's not even counting the rest of the world. Everything I'm sharing with you today, by the way, it's applicable all over the planet. It doesn't matter where you live. You could deal with small businesses in France, in Australia, Canada, United States, Japan. It doesn't matter, right? All businesses want two things, and I'll share those with you. Now, here's what's interesting. According to Business Know-How, roughly 9% of those small businesses generate over $1 million in annual revenue. So if you do the math, that's 2.71 million businesses. And some folks get intimidated by dealing with $1 million plus businesses for whatever reason. So if you could also get pretty good results for slightly smaller businesses. So if that's you, there are 1.35 million of them that do between 500 grand and $1 million. And you can help those folks too. Although the ones who are doing over $1 million, they can pay you more and it's easier to get a yes from them. But here's the thing I want to point out to you. I don't know what the number was that you wrote down in terms of how many clients you need to meet your revenue goal, but chances are it's a lot smaller than either of these two numbers, right? So there are a lot more of them than there are of you, and that's a very, very good thing. So step number one, the secret to really making this whole thing work is make sure you're targeting the right type of clients. And don't worry, there's a lot of them out there, which is good. Now, step two is to give them what they actually want. And this is very, very important because there's a huge lack of supply for people who can actually give them what they want. And there's a big demand for people who can give them what they want. So here's the deal about business owners in that $1 million to $20 million range. They want one or both of these two things. Number one, they want more money, more revenue, more profits. Number two, they want less stuff that sucks. And here's the deal about businesses that are that size. They're usually owner operated. The owner's there every day. The owner's dealing with the business, and the owner's in a state of stress and overwhelm. And I'll kind of show you the cycle that that prospect or that client experiences on a daily basis. But if you can help them get more money and less stuff that sucks, like get some of the problems off their plate, you're a hero to these people. And that's a good position to be in. Now, here's what's interesting about business consulting as a whole. According to Google, it's a $340 billion per year business. And check this out. Management consulting makes up $2.76 billion. Technology consulting is $48 billion, and strategy consulting is $31 billion. So actually it's probably a little bit bigger than $340 billion total, but you get the idea. It's a big business, right? But what's missing? So I did a Google search. I live here in Miami. I just did business consulting and business consultant, and everything that comes up is management. So all that's readily available to these businesses, if they need help, is management consulting. I can tell you this from experience, from 20 years of experience. None of these $1 million plus businesses, none of those owners are waking up in the middle of the night and going, honey, I've got it. I know the solution to our problems. We just need more management. That's just not happening, like, ever. What they really want is more money and less stuff that's a pain in the butt. So, I'm not an economics whiz or anything, but I took it in high school, got a C, and I learned this. When you got a situation where there's a lot of demand, right? So we got 2.71 small businesses in the United States alone that just want one or both of these two things, right? More money and less stuff that's a pain in the butt. So there's a huge demand to get them that. And then we realized that all they got out there is management, which means, whoops, there we go. All we got out there is management. So the supply of people who can actually help them get what they want is very small. And there's a big gap between the supply and the demand here. And simple economics will tell you, when there's a lot more demand than there is supply, we've got opportunity. And that is very important, right? So again, how big of an opportunity? Well, there are 2.71 million businesses in the US that do over $1 million in sales. And if you're intimidated by that number, then, well, you can do slightly smaller. There's 1.35 million that are between 500 grand and $1 million in revenue. So there's way more of them there are of you than there are of me. The opportunity is huge. However, the real trick to success is to actually be able to help them. Right? So we can't just say we're going to help them and, hope we can help them. We have to be able to help them in order to get the fees that you want and to be able to sell it. So that's the really big secret here. And that is the Sandor model that I'm going to teach you right now. So here's the deal. This is the equation for business, in my opinion. Number one, results equal value. Right? So the more results we can get in the marketplace, the more valuable that we become, right? Pretty simple. Well, the more valuable we are, the more money that we're worth, right? So if we're of extremely high value to a client, then they're likely to pay us more than if we were of little value to them. Therefore, the more results we get for them, the more money we get for them. And a third thing, and this might take a minute to kind of sink in here, so I'll go over it with you a little in greater detail when we talk about selling this, but here's the big kicker. Demonstration equals sales. And what I mean by this is if you can demonstrate that you can get results in advance of ever asking them for a sale, they will see you as valuable before they ever consider even giving you money, which means the process of getting a client becomes a lot smoother and a lot simpler. And so these are kind of the three pillars here of how to position yourself and really how to go into a marketplace. You want to focus on results because results equals value. The more value you give, the more money you can make, the more they're going to want to pay you. That's very basic. If you can demonstrate that you can get them results, then that's going to make your sales process easier. All right. So here's how I discovered this model. Okay. So I've tested all kinds of consulting stuff because I've always had a fascination with it. I always like doing it. It's cool. As a consultant, you get to solve problems, you get to come up with fun ideas. It's just a great gig. It's got a little prestige to it. There's no downsides to consulting. So I've tested give me $100,000 plus royalties, and I'll actually do all of your marketing for you. I've tested that, and that worked. That was I got a client within my first week of making that offer. Worked okay. It took me like 4 months to actually do the work, and so had I spent all those 4 months working on my own business, I probably would have made more money. But nonetheless, that was okay. I've tested something where clients would pay me $10,000 a month, and every month we would meet in person for a half a day. So I tried that. I tested bi-weekly one-on-one calls, and I tested at all kinds of different price points, arbitrarily and randomly created. I tested $3,860 a month, and then like $4,860 a month, and then $9,700 a month, and like the 9,700 one, by the way, was no harder to sell than the 3,860 one, right? So I tested all of those different models, and everything worked, but it just worked okay. And here was the challenge. What I was doing was I was doing classic marketing consulting. So that's what I came up in. That's what I've learned since 1999. I've been a hardcore student of direct response marketing. If you're watching this, we probably already know each other. So I'm not going to go into, how much I've studied on that. But what would happen is a client would come and they'd say, okay, we want more business. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd just like give them 7 million things they could do from a marketing perspective. And they would get overwhelmed. And because they would get overwhelmed, they wouldn't stay clients that long. So it was like I kept on having to get clients all the time, and no one was ever mad. They were never like, "Oh, this sucks." They would just be like, "Okay, man, I'm gonna take a break because I got to implement all these 7 million things you told me to do." So it kind of was a choke point there. And as a result of that, I said, well, I'm going to create an additional revenue stream so I can make some money while I'm figuring this out. And I created something called my Kern Inner Circle program. And that's a physically shipped newsletter that I mail out, and it's really cool. And one year, I decided to do a live event for our members. And I did it for free. I was like, let's just have an event free for our members and see what happens, because maybe it'll be fun. And so I didn't really think about was the cost of putting on one of those events. It's very expensive to do. So someone on my team says, we should sell something to recover some of the cost of doing this event, like sell something from stage, And so this is literally the morning that we're starting the event. So we're just making all of this stuff up on the fly. Like, well, I don't know, what should we sell? And so we came up with, okay, what we'll do is we'll sell a thing where we'll take 7 people and they can come to a 2-day mastermind at Frank's house, and it's going to be $18,000 per person. And I was like, okay, cool, sounds great. I didn't know if anyone would buy it. It immediately sold out, which was good, except there was a problem. And the problem is I absolutely hate masterminds. I don't have anything against like people who do masterminds or whatever, but I just think they're so boring. I don't know if you've ever been to one of them, but they typically, it's you get a bunch of people in a room and you spend one day where everyone goes around, they say, hey, here's what's working really well for me. And then everybody kind of chimes in and says, all right, here's how to make that better. And then the next day, everyone goes, okay, here's my biggest problem. And then everybody kind of chimes in and gives their 2 cents on how to solve the problem. And what you end up doing is you leave with 8 million pages of notes and you get nothing done. And so it was bothering me. I was like, man, I got these people coming to my house, and I don't want to do this to them because I know that they're going to leave with 8 million pages of notes, and they're probably never going to want to do this again. Even though they'll think it was fun, they're not going to implement any of this stuff because it's going to be too much, and it wouldn't really be valuable to them. So I'll never forget this. So like I'm filled with dread, not because I didn't want to see the people. The people were awesome, but I'm like, man, I really don't know what to do for this mastermind because I just could not bring myself to do the traditional model. So I'm in my house, and I had a room with a pool table in it, and we took the pool table out, and I bought this conference table. It's still there in that house, actually. And the conference table sat 8 people, so I had 7 clients and then me. And we're there, and I say, okay, guys, we could do the traditional mastermind route, which I don't think is really going to do you any good, or I can just kind of take a more consultative approach. And I want to test the consultative approach if it's okay with you guys. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, So I asked them all this one question. I said, if you don't mind, just real quick, just write down what you want to get out of this 2-day meeting with me. And I swear to God, like nobody knew the answer. It was crickets. And so I'm like, guys, it's okay. You know, you can write. It's just simple. Just write down what you want to get as a result of being here. And what was amazing is no one had thought it out. Nobody was like, hey, here's what I want. You know, and so like it takes me a little while, and by a little while, I mean it was probably 90 minutes of discussion of people just trying to figure out what they actually wanted as a result in their business. Like, man, what am I trying to accomplish today? Gosh, I never really thought about it. Because usually they come with a million ideas and a million problems, but I was like, hey, what do you want? You know, and then I asked them a second question, which is, okay, what do you want your business and your life to be like? And you want to know why I asked that question? Is it was filler. I was like, I'm just going to ask this to see because I'm kind of winging this right now. And I don't know what else to say because I got to like formulate a plan to help them get what it is they said they wanted. So I'm just going to ask them this. And while they're writing it down, I'm going to look at everything they said they wanted. And I'm going to see if I can come up with some ideas to help them get it, you know? So it was like a filler question so I could do my job and try and come up with some ideas for them. But here's what happened. They, first of all, they really had never given it any consideration. So I'm like, yeah, you know, what would you like an ideal situation to be like? What do you want your business to provide for you? What do you want your lifestyle to be like? You know, what like a typical business day? What do you want that to be like? So they start doing it and they're writing it down and everything. And here's what happens. We ended up having a 99% conflict rate. And what I mean by conflict, and this is heavy, all right, so pay really close attention here. By conflict, what I mean is they had an internal conflict, meaning what they said they wanted to get out of the meeting was basically the opposite of what they wanted their business and their life to be like. So I'll give you an example. We had one person, they were in consulting, and their objective was to get 20 more one-on-one clients, right? So when I said, what do you want to get out of this experience? Like, you know, we go back and forth and find, it's like, you know, okay, I want to figure out how to get 20 more one-on-one clients. I'm like, okay, cool. And then when I said, what do you want your business and your life to be like? They said, I want my business to be able to operate without me. Well, that's a huge conflict, right? It's impossible. Your business can't operate without you. If you get 20 more one-on-one clients, it means it's even more dependent on you than ever. Okay, so that's an example of an internal conflict there. Another example totally happened. There was a real estate broker that came and they wanted to grow the real estate brokerage. And so we're kind of, you know, was very vague. So I'm like, well, what does that mean? You know, give me more specific than just grow the real estate brokerage. So we sort of worked it out and we figured that in order to hit the revenue targets that they wanted to make, they would need something like 50 more real estate agents that worked in their brokerage, right? Because that's kind of how that business works. So then I said, well, you know, what do you want your business and your life to be like? And the client says, well, you know, I don't want to have to deal with a big staff anymore. It's such a headache and it's just awful. And I'm so tired of having to deal with an office space and all of the politics and all this stuff. Well, you could understand, right? How like this is a huge internal conflict. Like if you don't want a big staff, but you want to grow your real estate brokerage and get 50 more agents, it doesn't match up. And here's what I found from being with these people is that it's almost impossible to get any kind of results at all if there's no clear outcome of what the client actually wants and or if there's an internal conflict. And here's why. If there's no clear outcome, then there's no focus, right? So, and the client's just like doing whatever. And if there's an internal conflict, that's when you're really in trouble. Because the client can never fully commit to the thing they need to do to get the clear outcome. And you might even experience this in your own life if like you'll be doing okay and then you'll somehow like kind of stop doing what was working or whatever. There's likely an internal conflict there that the thing that's actually working is providing you with something that you don't want. And so that meeting, that little 2-day meeting ended up being amazing. Like just so great. And I ended up doing, I think it was 6 more of these meetings at my house over the course of a year or so. Just little 2-day meetings, you know, people would come, they'd pay 18 grand and we'd spend 2 days together. And it was just so cool. And what I learned was this from dealing with all those people in that little environment is there are 3 big killers when it comes to $1 million plus businesses. And so this is specific, by the way, to businesses that are actually doing stuff. This isn't necessarily related to startups, although it could be, but this is really for $1 million plus businesses. That's your target, by the way. Number one is lack of clarity. And lack of clarity means they don't know what they want. And the reason they don't know what they want, by the way, is because they're focused on problems. So their day is taken up dealing with problems and putting out fires and stuff, and they never get the chance to actually think about what it is they actually want and how do I get it. And they also, the second thing, is an unrecognized internal conflict. And this is huge. And this is 9 times out of 10. There's an unrecognized internal conflict between what it is they say they want and then what they want their business to actually produce for them. And that's huge. If you can get rid of that for somebody, you're doing them an unbelievably good service. And finally, the third killer is overwhelm. So when they're in a state of overwhelm, they can't get anything done. In fact, it looks like this, all right? So there's a cycle. And this cycle is basically, I'm about to show you the living conditions of the owner, of the average owner of $1 million plus business. This is very, very common based on my personal experience of actually doing consulting with real business owners a lot. So they come in and they're wanting a reactive plan. And what this really means usually is there's a problem and something's bad and it's not working and they're weirded out and they want to do something right now to solve the problem. So this could be, to put it in perspective, in terms of like the internet marketing community, this could be where someone is a coach and they need cash flow. They've got like a little program or something that involves a lot of one-on-one work and they need cash flow. So they're going to do the next phase, which is, okay, I need to come up with something to get some money, right? And then they do what's called manic marketing. And that's where you're like, okay, I'm just going to make this thing and I'm going to sell it and I'm going to do this promotion. And what happens is they're ultimately getting more of what they don't want. So in this case, this one-on-one coach example, what they really want is more time freedom. And they really want to be able to relax and enjoy their life, but they need money. And the only thing that they can think of is I need to get more one-on-one clients. So they manically go out and they try to get more one-on-one clients. And one of two things happen. It either works or it doesn't work. And either one of them are going to lead to this. Let's say it works. Well, they get more clients, which now they've got more problems because now they have even less free time. And so they're spending all their time fulfilling, and now they can't think about actually growing the business. And now cash flow begins to become an issue again, and time becomes an issue, and that creates more reaction. They're like, oh my God, I gotta do something because I don't have any time and I'm stressed out, which now leads them to be feeling overwhelmed because they feel like they have 20 million things to do. That leads to stress. Stress leads to fear. Fear leads to a reactive plan. And so what happens is this, what you're looking at right here, this is the living condition of the overwhelming majority of $1 million plus businesses. And what's really alarming is many of them have come to view this as normal. And so if you can break this cycle for somebody, you are doing them one of the greatest services you could ever do for another human being, because you are taking them out of extreme pain. They might not even realize how awful it is until they like step away from it for a minute and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better, So the way to fix this is the model. It's the Sandor model. So I'm going to walk you through that right now. So Sandor means nothing. It's just every letter of the model kind of spells the word Sandor, so it's not like I was trying to come up with some cool sounding word, but I don't have one. So here, I'll put the letters on the screen for you here. There we go. All right. So step one is we want to help the client get totally clear on the specific outcome they want to achieve and really know the why behind the what. If they say, here's what I want, you got to figure out like, hey, why do you want that? And the reason why is because that's going to help you uncover internal conflicts there. And so it's critical that number one, get a clear objective, a clear outcome. And number two, understand why you're getting that outcome, right? And make sure there's no internal conflict. Because if you do this and there's internal conflict, you're just going to help them get more of what they don't want. And they're never going to get any real help, So now that you know what they want, right? You have this clear objective. So let's say the clear objective is I want to get, 50 more customers or something. Well, great. So now the next letter here, A, stands for assets. And assets is my fancy way of saying all the moving pieces that they have in their business that could be put to use that could help them get what they want. All right. So that could be like sales funnels, all of their products that they've got, how many lists they have. They have customer lists, they have prospect lists. Do they have audiences on social media, funnels, everything, right? Every imaginable thing that they've got at their disposal to help them get what they want. That's called an asset. So metaphorically, it's like you're just dumping the box of their stuff out on the table and looking at all the stuff that they've got that you could use to assemble this thing that they want. So the next step here stands for numbers. And when I'm telling you numbers, I don't mean we're going to have to be calculus experts or anything. I actually failed math in high school. I'll tell you about that soon, actually. But so in this case, the numbers are really basic numbers like, okay, what's the profit in this product? What's the profit for this product? What's the conversion rate for this page? What's the conversion rate for that page? How many leads do you need until you get a sale? Like really simple, basic marketing math stuff, right? And so you get the numbers, and that really tells you what's actually working in there. And the D stands for deep dive. And it's really a deep dive diagnosis, right? So what you do in this phase is you look at all the numbers and you see exactly what's working, and what you're going to find every single time is that there's usually just like a couple of things that are actually getting them the results they want. And then the other 92% of it or whatever is stuff that they could just quit messing with, which is great. So once you uncover that, you develop for them a one-step action plan. That's what I call it. So this is literally the one thing they need to do now that moves them closer to this, right? So we know what they want. We run through all that they've got, and we say, okay, do this one thing now to get you closer to this. Now, sometimes the one thing can just lead directly to this, but usually they do the one big thing and then something happens, which is the next step here, which is review and repeat. So they'll do the one thing, it usually works great. Now they're closer to this, and we say, okay, now we're closer. All right, now let's just refocus on our objective here. What do we want? Cool, okay. We know what happened, and then you run through the entire model again. And that's what I ended up doing for all of those clients that were coming to my house. And I didn't have it formalized at first, and then I just started noticing there was a pattern every time, and that's how I developed this model. And dang it, the thing worked. It worked incredibly well. It worked so well that I decided to start doing a lot more of it. And instead of doing it at my house and onesie twosies, I started an entire program and created an entire business from it. And in doing that, I learned the next step, which is the thing that sounded kind of weird, but I'll explain now. And that's step 4 here, which is to be the cheapest high ticket person in the world. So let's talk about high ticket stuff first. I know there are a lot of courses out there or whatever that say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to sell high ticket stuff. And they'll make these implications that, anything could be turned into a high ticket program, even if you want to teach someone how to juggle cats or whatever. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do know that in the business consulting world, it's not unusual to be able to charge 5 figures to multiple 5 figures to 6 figures. I've done all of that with success. And so that's really good, but there's a case for wanting to be at a premium price. Number one, obviously you get paid more, and that's good. And number two, because you're paid more, if you choose, you're able to take fewer clients and still meet your revenue targets. And that's good because 3, fewer clients means you can provide better service, which is a very, very important, because if you can provide better service and get them better results, they're going to stay your clients for a long time. I've been running this model now as I created an entire business around it that does 7 figures a year as one of several businesses I own. And I've been doing this now into my 3rd year. And a lot of our clients are repeat clients, carrying all the way back from the 1st year, which is really, really good. And finally, there's the client psychology of a high ticket purchase. So we have this belief that if I paid a lot for it, it has to be good, and that's okay. And I'm not suggesting you exploit that belief, but there's another side to that, which is I paid a lot for this, I'm going to dang well do it. One of my very first clients and my very first higher ticket program was a lady named Brooke Castillo, a good friend of mine now to this day. Very proud of her. We worked together, and she went from $300,000 a year to now she does over 25 million a year, I think. And she's really doing well. And I'm not responsible for all of that growth. She's very, very talented and very intelligent, but I am proud of her and the work that she's done and the work we did together. And I remember talking to her, and she said, you know, when I signed up for this, I said, I'm going to just do whatever the heck he tells me to do because I'm paying a lot of money for it. And you know what? When someone pays you a lot of money for stuff, not every time, but when a client's paying a pretty penny for your advice, they tend to actually do what you tell them to do, especially if you don't overwhelm them. So those are some good reasons that high ticket makes sense. The great thing about this particular business of consulting to smaller businesses in general is that, as a general rule, it's a very high margin, very low overhead business. So I'm going to share some numbers with you. They're my own internal numbers. In sharing these, I'm literally just doing this to kind of tell you how my business works. This is not some sort of implied earnings claim. I have no idea how much money you can make, will make, anything like that. This isn't one of those presentations, and nor am I suggesting how much you should charge. I pulled my prices kind of out of the air. I just made them up. I was like, I don't know, let's try this. And it worked. And that method of coming up with pricing has always worked pretty well for me. So let me dig into this for you. Okay, this is really, really appealing to using this model and just business consulting in general. Generally speaking, business to business consulting is high ticket. It's not unusual at all for a consulting agreement to be 5 figures, multiple 5 figures, or even into the 6-figure range. For me, my main program is something called the Private Client Group. It's a year-long engagement, and I charge $40,000 for it. The majority of what you're paid should be profit. There really shouldn't be a lot of other expense in the business. My meetings, for example, when I meet with clients, they're held in a hotel conference room. Nothing crazy, I'm not going and getting the Ritz or anything like that. Nobody cares. I've done that stuff and nobody cared. The tools that I use have now, because I've been doing it so long, especially, you're looking at them. I literally put these tools on a table and took a picture of them before building this for you. It took forever to get them to fit right in portrait mode, by the way. But that's when I'm meeting with clients, I literally have, I'm kind of weird about it, but that notebook, it's called a Luke Term 1917 notebook. It's I think it's called the A5 size. It's the 8.5 by 11 size. Always use a Sharpie pen and always have a calculator handy. And that's it. Like, those are the tools of the trade for me, So it's really cool in the sense that your margins should be high. Here are my numbers that will happen in 2020. I'm going to have 25 clients this year at 40 grand a pop. I've got around 38 now. I'm cutting it down to 25 because I do not want to have more than 6 total 2-day meetings per year. So the way it works is I'll take clients and I'll put them in little groups and we'll have 2-day meetings together. And if I take more than 25 clients, I'll need to do more of those meetings, and I don't feel like it. So that's why I'm dropping my client load down. But anyway, I've charged 40 grand for a long time, and so I've already got the clients. I'll probably get most of them from renewal. So anyway, it's $1 million, okay? And I will be required to hold 6 2-day meetings over the course of 2020, and I hold them in a nice hotel in Aventura, Florida. It's real nice, and each meeting costs exactly, and I know this because I just had one 2 weeks ago, it costs exactly $5,092.02, and I pay for it after the meeting. So it's not like I lay out all this money before a client pays me or something, And so therefore, the total hard cost for the year there is $30,552.12. So if you deduct that from the $1 million, the gross profit is $969,447.88. And so that's gross profit. That's not taking out any advertising expense or whatever. And I have a couple folks on my team that help me. And of course, I have other businesses too. So my folks on my team work in those other businesses as well. But the point is, ridiculously high margins, really, really good. And so that's great. So now that we've got all of this established that higher ticket is okay, It makes sense. It's not weird in this industry. This is like actually something you really can charge a lot of money for, unlike that whole, hey, anyone could be a high ticket, whatever. Like, it's normal in small business consulting. Here's what I mean now by being the cheapest high ticket person in the world. And this is important. All right. So, like I told you, my private client group pays 40 grand a year. Now, remember, the perfect target for using the Sandor model is a business that's doing $1 million or so in annual revenue. So let's just say it's $1 million business, just for like easy math, right? So if you look at what $1 million a year business spends, 40 grand is nothing. Like I went on Google and the average salary of an executive assistant is $57,410 a year. So it's not like this is a huge decision that the prospective client is going to have to think about, forever. It's like, okay, they're not thinking about it for 3 months before they hire the executive assistant. They're like, man, we need someone to help us. Go hire somebody. Like, it's really just not that big of a deal. So like I said, most clients have revenues around $1 million. So actually they're above, but let's just say for easy math again, that the typical client is doing a minimum of $1 million in sales. Well, assuming that they're only doing $1 million a year, my client would double their investment if all that we did together was increase their revenue by 8%, right? So think about that for a minute. 8% increase in revenue would double, because 8% of $1 million is 80 grand. That would double what they had invested in me. So they would have gotten 100% return on their money. My target is way higher than 8%, by the way. I would be ashamed if all I did was get someone an 8% increase. So I think it's literally impossible not to do at least that for them, assuming you're dealing with the right clients, right? So like, if you've been doing this stuff before and you're having trouble with your clients, it's probably because you've been working in startup world or much smaller businesses. They're like solopreneur businesses or whatever, and those are great, but they don't have a lot of forward momentum. $1 million a year plus business, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and usually it just takes a couple little tweaks to make them do better, and that's really cool. I'll give you some current client cases to kind of give you an example of some of the stuff that happens. I don't have permission to use their names here, so I'm going to just use initials. I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but literally before I recorded this, I didn't call them, and I don't want to, I respect their privacy. So one of my guys here, this is a realtor, and this person, unlike the example I gave you earlier, he is a real estate broker, and he wanted to get a lot of agents, and he wanted to have a big staff, and he wanted to have a big office. And he hasn't even been with me for a full year yet. He went from recruiting people in a little like rented out hotel conference room to now he just texted me a picture of a great big all glass office, like the cool kind, like you see in the clip art and stuff, he just got one of those. He's doubled the size of his team. He's super happy. This is great. All because of the Sandor model, by the way. So it's not like I did 20 million things for him. I was like, hey, this is the one thing to do right here. Go do this. And then he came back. I said, okay, that worked pretty good. Do more of that and then add this. It was a real simple. Another one, this person sells fitness nutritional supplements in a retail environment, right? So he's got brick and mortar stores. So in our work together, he hadn't been with me a full year either. As a matter of fact, we were able to double the retail revenue because we focused on one process. So remember how I told you, like during the assets phase of Sandor, you get like every sales process they've got, and that could be all their lists, all their ad campaigns, like everything, all their products, what's making money and what isn't. We found that one media source got a huge return on investment, and a bunch of other ones really didn't. So what we did is we focused on that one offer from that one media source, and we just doubled down on that, and that doubled everything, just doing that one thing. And as simple as that sounds, the client couldn't see it because he was too busy moving all the spinning plates, right? So in my case, using Sandor, I was able to get super clear for him really, really quickly. Didn't overwhelm him, gave him one thing to do, and he did it, and he's as happy as he could be. Travis is awesome. He is a tax attorney, and he's a pretty cool tax attorney too. And so what we did with him is we were analyzing everything, and we had some revenue targets we wanted to hit. And I'm looking at his business, and I'm like, wait a minute, your clients want this service, and you can provide this service to them and currently do. Why don't we send this message to your existing client base offering this service? Long story short, we did. A bunch of his existing client base said, yes, I want that service. And now he's got a multiple six-figure revenue stream that we just kind of bolted on just by doing that one thing. In addition to that, we were able to use Sandor, because remember, like, you get all the moving parts, and that assets and the end part were the numbers. You see all the moving parts, and you see where the money's being spent and where it's being made. And I was able to uncover that, man, this guy is spending a couple $100,000 a year in advertising that's just not doing anything for him. So I was able to immediately, like within a phone call, chop a multiple six-figure expense just right off of the books. Which, of course, that's just money he's keeping. So that's more profit, which is great. I got another fella named Trevor. He's a documentary filmmaker. He's really, really cool. He came. He's a new client. He came and he had this problem, which was he thought that in order to continually generate revenue, he had to make a new documentary film all the time, because the sales process kind of works like this. It's really cool. Who makes these documentaries? He advertises the documentaries on social media. You opt in to see them. They talk about alternative health stuff. And then from everyone who opts in and watches them, he'll send emails and he'll do webinars selling the physical products, like, you know, physically shipped like stuff, selling them the stuff that's mentioned in the movie. And so he would do it, and like it would work out great, and he'd be like, okay, I guess I got to make another movie. And so I analyzed everything, and I was like, dude, just wait a minute. Why don't you just do another webinar to the list you've got? I swear to God. And he did, and after the first meeting, he did $141,000 in additional sales, which was fantastic, and he didn't have to make another movie, right? And so as simple as that sounds, what I'm trying to share with you is, especially if you've been in marketing for a while, the stuff that you know, you're probably taking for granted. And what I mean by that is it's probably likely that you don't understand how powerful what you already know really is. Most businesses do not know what you know. They don't spend all day like looking at ads and reading marketing stuff. They spend all day putting out fires, right? So what's really simple to me and you is not so simple to them, which is good because it allows us to help them. Here's someone, I literally can't even use his initials because I don't want his competition to know what he's doing and rip him off. But this fella works with gym owners, and we looked at his whole sales process, and he came and he was like, oh man, I need to like rebuild everything. And so I did Sandor, you know, I got the assets, I got the numbers, and I found that, wait a minute, there's just one little thing here. And if we just make that thing work, then everything probably is going to fall in line. And we just fixed that one little thing. And he emailed me, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and said that last month was literally his best month ever, like ever in his life of business, which is fantastic. And we just did one-step action plan, which is great. You know, I have another client. She's new. Her name's Toby. She's awesome. She works in the, it's not home services, like the designer space. And she helps people in that little world. Then we helped to get her a six-figure increase in annualized revenue by, once again, she came, and so many clients do this. Your clients will do the same thing. They'll have like 9 million ideas, and they'll have 9 million problems. And then my job was to go through all that stuff and be like, oh, wait, what happens when you do this one thing? And she would tell me, and it would always work. And I was like, well, why don't you just go and do that one thing again? And she did, and then she did it 2 more times. And next thing you know, now she's got enough extra monthly revenue coming in that it'll realize a 6-figure increase in annual revenue just from that. And of course, I'm going to help her expand that one thing, you know, that was just from our first meeting. So the reason I'm telling you this is not to like say, hey, you should be in my private client group or whatever. It's just, I want to demonstrate the power of the model itself. You'll notice like all this stuff that I did for these guys, it wasn't that I built them a new marketing system. I didn't rewrite their headlines. I didn't have to create a funnel. When you're dealing with companies that are $1 million plus, you don't have to do that. It's usually there's like a little lever that needs to be tweaked a little bit, and that's the thing that gets good results. So now that you know a model that can actually get massive results for people, Now it's time to talk about actually getting those people to get the results for. Okay, so that's step 5, which is getting clients. And the trick here, the rule really, is to make them come to you. If you're having to chase clients right now, I want you to pay close attention, because I never, ever, ever want you to have to do that again for the rest of your life, because it sucks. It's no fun. So here's the rule. There are 2 rules, okay, for your sales process in business consulting. Rule number 1 is that simple is good. Rule number 2 is to refer to rule number 1. All right, we got to keep everything really, really simple. So I'll start by telling you how I deliver the Sandor model, like the various ways I actually do the consulting, and then I'll tell you how I sell it. And take from this what you will. If you want to model some of this, then please go ahead. I hope it works for you. So my number 1 thing is something called my private client group. That's sort of the biggest chunk of revenue. And so what I do is just an annual program. It's 40 grand a year. And they come to 3 small group 2-day meetings per year. And so that's why I'm limiting my client load this year, because if I'm taking on just enough clients so where I just do 6 little meetings every year. That's every other month, and that gives me the rest of the time to just kind of mess around and live my life, you know. And then another way that I deliver this model is I have something called a scaling group. And scaling group is pretty cool. This is a virtual, and so it's an 8-week program. I take groups of 5 entrepreneurs, and they're typically 7-figure plus entrepreneurs, and we get on a Zoom call every Monday for about an hour and a half every week, just once a week, and I run them through Sandor. And basically, says I'm just making sure they're sticking with the one thing, right? And so if they'll just do that one thing for 8 weeks, my goal, and when I'm selling this thing, it's like, hey, my mission with you is to get a 20% revenue increase from your last month, this month, by doing this stuff. Let's go. And it's an 8-week program, and we hit it. I don't think we've ever not hit it, actually. So it's pretty good. Really, really simple, right? So that involves no in-person meetings. I just do that from my computer here in my office over Zoom, and that's really, really good. Then I'll do those little small group one-off meetings. Like I told you, I don't do those much anymore because I bundle them in my private client group. But sometimes I'll be like, hey, you know, if you want to come and have a 2-day meeting and go through this process and do some planning and find the one big thing to shift your business, then you can come, and I'll limit it to usually like 12 people now. And I'll charge for that. And I charge 18 grand for that. I'm just telling you my prices, by the way. I'm not telling you what you should charge. I'm just telling you what I charge for it, just so you'll know. The scaling group thing is $9,800. Every single one of these prices I just pulled out of the air. I was like, I don't know, let's see if this will work. And it worked fine. That's how I come up with pricing. I also do hourly consulting. And by hourly, I mean 1 hour. So it's $5 grand for 1 hour, and I don't like to do 2 hours. So that's it. It's like, okay, if you want to meet one-on-one, we will meet for exactly 1 hour, and it's $5 grand. And I just take them through Sandor during that 1 hour. And so all of this stuff is just ways that I'm running people through the Sandor process. And so if any of these sound appealing to you, knock them off if you want to. It's fine. I've done all of them. This is my 3rd year of just running Sandor as a thing, and it's great. They all work really, really well. So the difference in which one you should do is personal preference, whichever one you want to do. I do all of them because I kind of feel like switching it up sometimes, So that's how I give it to people. That's how I deliver it. Now let me show you how I sell it. All right. So there's 3 pieces. Number 1 is I release content on social media that is, I call it whale bait. So this is important, by the way. This is like a big one. The term whale bait. I have this expression, and it goes like this. You can't catch whales with minnow bait. And here's what I mean by that. If you're doing any sort of coaching or consulting now, and you're putting out content like webinars or lead magnets or PDFs or anything, and it's like, here's how to create a funnel that makes 10 grand a month or whatever, guess who's going to respond to that? Someone who does not make 10 grand a month. That's not a whale, that's a minnow, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being a minnow, but a minnow is not going to pay you a lot of money, and they're going to be extremely difficult to get results for because they don't have any forward momentum. Whereas the whale, which is the $1 million plus business, whatever your fee may be, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. in terms of what their budgeting is all about. And because they've already got so much going on, your job isn't to invent new stuff for them to do, is to find the stuff that's already working and just get them to do more of that and help them do it better, right? So all of this stuff is what I call whale bait. And you'll notice it's not fancy. It's me, and so these are shot, by the way, on an iPhone. You can go on Amazon if you like just type in iPhone lavalier mic. They're like $20 something, and basically this thing right here has like a 60-foot long cord that is run down your shirt or however you want to do it across the floor, and then someone's just holding your iPhone and the audio's good. And so like zero production value, and so that's what these content videos are. So I show these, I literally just go on Facebook and say, show these to people in the United States who say they have a small business. And then I just let the rest do its magic, because if someone watches this, chances are they're a whale. And the reason why is because I'm talking about whale stuff here, right? And so I'm not talking about here's how to make an extra 10 grand. I'm talking about like here's how to solve overwhelm and complexity and the stuff that's actually on their minds. So if they watch 25% of any of these videos, what happens is now I show them an ad, and this is a real ad that sent people to my sales process. And it basically says, incidentally, in this, I mentioned the fact that I have a private client group in all of these videos. So they know I've got one. They see this ad and it says, hey, if you're interested in being a private client, go here. And I like to send people to a webinar, because on a webinar, you can actually help them and deliver some value to them, And then at the end of the webinar, I'm like, hey, if you're interested in being a client, fill out this little form and this application. And I get basic data from them. I think it's 5 questions: name, email, phone number, website, annual revenue. And if I approve them, because I won't talk to just anyone, if their annual revenue is 0 and their website is like, I don't know, how to be a psychopath.biz or something, I'm not going to talk to them, right? So I approve them. And if I approve them, I end up having a conversation, and they either buy or they don't. Now, that's the entire sales process. Does it seem super simple? It's because it is super simple, but there's a missing ingredient that I want you to be very, very aware of, which is Sandor. So remember earlier, I kind of had those 3 pillars for you, and I was like, results equals value, and the value equals money. And if we can demonstrate that we can get people results, then sales are easier. Everything in my sales process is a demonstration of my ability to get them results, and I'm using Sandor. So in this content right here, in this one, I don't know if you can read it because it's probably on like a smaller screen, but it says, what if you focused only on the single most profitable, sustainable, and energizing activity in your business? What I'm doing right here is I'm walking them through the S part of Sandor and the A part, right? And it helps them uncover, oh my gosh, this is what's actually the most profitable thing in my business right here. In this video, I'm teaching them about focusing on where the money actually is. So this is actually part, if we were to diagnose this one and really go deep, this particular video is addressing the end part of the Sandor system, which is where the numbers are. And this whole video is about how my friend Tony Robbins went from doing really well to obnoxiously well by changing one thing, which was the audience he served. I was at his house. I've done some work with him, and I was at his house, and I said, dude, the last time I saw you, you were doing pretty good, but now, good Lord, you got a gigantic plane, and his house is ridiculous. I was like, what changed? And he said, I went after entrepreneurs instead of the general population. I started targeting business owners. So that was the one thing. So that's what this video here is about. So you get it, right? So in this content, I'm not being fancy. I'm not trying to act cool. It's long form. This one's 8 minutes and 31 seconds. I'm literally just using Sandor. I'm just telling them like, hey, here's, how to do stuff. So they see it, and there's no demonstration in the ad. It's literally just, hey, go here. And so now on the webinar, you know what I do on a webinar? And on the sales call, Sandor. So check it out. On the webinar, what I do is I get people to understand their specific outcome. So why do you think at the very beginning of this webinar, I was like, hey, what I want you to do is write down how much you want to get paid per client. And then I want you to write down how much you want to earn over the course of the year. And then I want you to write down how many clients that is. That's because I'm getting you to focus on your outcome. If you can get someone to focus on what it is they want, you're already helping them. And what I've been doing throughout this entire thing is I've been helping you create a plan to get that, right? So on the webinar, I help them focus on writing down what assets they have that can get that for them. Now, I'm not doing that in this webinar. It's kind of a different intent, and so forth, right? And I help them find the numbers. And the whole webinar formula that I use is literally like, okay, how much of this do you need to do to get the one thing or the outcome that you want to get? And on the call, by the way, I do the same thing. All right, so my sales call goes like this. So I'm like, don't really like selling stuff. I'm not a salesperson per se, especially, one-on-one on the phone. I'm okay at it in video or whatever, but in person I get nervous. So when I'm doing that sales call, I literally say to them, what is it you would like to accomplish by working together over the next year? And they tell me, and I say, okay, cool. And sometimes, by the way, they might say something completely crazy. They might be like, well, I want to go from $1 million to $100 million in the course of the year. And I'll usually say, I'm not 100% sure that I can help you do that. I need to see, all the moving pieces of your business, but that's a pretty big jump. Are you hard set on that? Or if we have a slightly different outcome, are you okay? And a lot of times, of course, they're like, oh, no, dude, I mean, I get it, but ultimately I'd like to, and so, I do that. And then I literally do Sandor. I say, okay, well, tell me about the business. What's going on? What's your sales process like? What works? Tell me about all your conversion. And all I'm doing is getting enough data from them so I can say the following phrase or not. So if I think I can help them, I'll say, I am 100% certain I can help you, and I would love to have you as a client. What questions can I answer? And lo and behold, that is the entire sales pitch, right? So here's what happens. So sometimes they'll say, nothing, dude. I just wanted to make sure you thought we were a good fit. I'll say, okay, cool. And they'll sign up. Or they'll have some questions, and it's pretty normal to have questions. And I'll just answer the questions. Like, well, how does it work? Or what do you think of this? And I'll answer the questions as best I can. And at the end of it, I'll say, okay, well, what do you want to do? That's my closing question. What do you want to do? And they say one of these three things. Sometimes they say, oh, I'm ready. Let's go. And that happens. Most of the time, though, they'll say they need to think about it, or they'll say they don't want it. So if they say they don't want it, guess what I do? I say, okay, anything else I can help you with? And that's the end of the conversation. No problem. No one's mad. It's not weird. I'm not trying to push them into it. I don't care. Like, all right, well, have a good day. It's nice talking to you. Let me know if I can be of service to you in the future. And if they say I need to think about it, what I do is I say, okay, no problem. What would you like me to do? And they'll tell me. They'll be like, well, if you don't mind, if you call me back on Thursday, and then I'll have someone else call them back because I got stuff to do. But that's how it works, and that's how we get clients. That is the entire client getting system right there. And so what's cool, especially about this part, is I know I just made that sales call sound simple, and that's because it is simple. And the reason why is when you know the Sandor model and you're really good at it, you can help somebody. Like, there's absolutely no question. Like, when I'm getting their desired outcome from them, and I'm getting like, okay, how does your sales process work, and what are the numbers? And when I tell them that I can help them, I've got 1,000% certainty that I can help them. And so that gives me a great deal of confidence when I make that statement, which is, I am 100% certain I can help you, and I would love to have you as a client. By the way, if I can't help them, I'll tell them. I'll say, man, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm not your guy. And it's not like weird. I'm just being honest with them. But when I can help them, I say, I'm 100% certain I can help you, and I would love to have you as a client. Now, it also gives me confidence to say the magic word. And that magic word is next. All right. And here's the deal. There's one of you. There's one of me. There are actually 3 people in the world that are qualified to instruct in Sandor. There are 2.71 million of them just in the United States alone. So when I go into a sales situation, I am completely detached from whether or not they actually become a client. Of course, I'd love it if they did. But if they don't, I'm like, okay, the magic word is next. I'm like, all right, see you later. Next. Because there's just there's so many more of them than there are us. Like, if me and you and everybody watching this thing ever all became great at this and we were great at marketing, we couldn't make a dent in the demand for it. I mean, it's just, we couldn't. There would still be more demand than there is supply. So it gives you the confidence to really not care, and not be clingy. And it also gives you the ability to say the magic phrase. And the magic phrase is, okay, what do you want me to do? So when they say, I need to think about it, what they're expecting from you is, well, what do you need to think about? Why don't we think about it together? They're expecting some sort of an objection handling thing because they're used to dealing with salespeople. Remember, these are $1 million plus businesses. It's not like they just fell off the turnip truck. So when you're like, okay, what do you want me to do? It totally throws them off guard. It exudes this confidence. It completely breaks the pattern. And in most cases, it increases their confidence in your ability to help them because you're not trying to chase them. And so that really, really helps you sell. And the entire process, the entire sales process I'm outlining for you, when you do it, is end-to-end enjoyment for you. Because you're helping someone every step of the way. This is a client of mine. His name is Daniel. I didn't get his permission to give these numbers, so I just blocked out his last name here. He's awesome. This dude, like, when I tell you I have all types of businesses, I really have all types of businesses. This guy's in Germany, and he works with industrial manufacturers of, like, car parts and stuff, like really, really not obscure, but, way different from like, oh, I sell ebooks about ebooks about ebooks, I mean, like real businesses. So this was after our sales call, by the way. So we do a sales call and the guy goes, yeah, cool, man. I want to come on as a client. I'm like, all right, well, I really thought we would spend more time on the phone. Let's get to work and let's do some stuff. So we were doing some stuff just in that little first initial phone call. And I found out doing Sandor, everything goes back to the model, has nothing to do with me. I go and I'm running Sandor and I find out that he wants to grow and he wants, X amount of revenue increase, and he's servicing two different types of clients. Client A, big corporate client, and they pay him more money, but they take a long time to close. Client B is owner-operator types, and they don't pay him as much money, but they close a lot more frequently. And so his big bottleneck was manpower. He had only had so many people that could actually be doing the sales presentations and stuff. So I did the math. I literally did every single thing I'm telling you and discovered that, hey, wait a minute. For every like 10 of these owner-operated companies you talk to, you close like 3 or whatever. And that's a lot more money when compared to the big corporations. Why don't you just start dealing with them? Anyway, long story short, the dude did 48,000 euro right after our first call, which was great, right? No, I'm not telling you you're going to have this type of result. I'm just saying the reason I point this out is it's really, really pleasant for your sales process in and of itself to actually help people. Because remember, value equals money. Right? Results equal value. Value equals money. The ability to demonstrate that you can get results for people equals easy sales. So all of this process that I'm showing you, that's all that is me doing that for people over and over and over and over again. So there is no hard selling. They're coming to me. I'm not chasing them, right? And so that is what it takes. Those are your steps right there to really do amazingly well in a business consulting environment, specifically in the area of increasing profits for small business. So now I want to talk to you about getting certified in the Sandor model itself. Now, one of the things you might be wondering is, hey, why would you be willing to certify people in this? Seems like you got a pretty good thing going, Aren't you worried about competition? And there are two answers to that. Answer number one is on this side. Again, there's 30.2 million small businesses in the United States alone. 9% of them are in that range where they're doing over $1 million. That's 2.71 million just in the US, by the way. No, I'm not worried about competition. I think there's enough for everybody. The second reason I'm doing this is because of a bigger picture vision that I have personally. I would like to compete with these dudes. Deloitte, Accenture, PricewaterhouseCooper, Ernst& Young. These are all big companies that do consulting. Their annual revenues are actually bigger than what you see on the screen here. This is just the revenues, according to a site called Statistia, by the way. This is just the revenues they get for consulting in and of itself. So in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, if people are spending this much money on like, this is all management consulting type of stuff. If they're spending this much money on management consulting type of stuff, and what so many of these people want is really just give me more profits and less stuff that's a hassle, then I think there's room to compete here. So what I'd like to do is to have people that could either work for me or with me in some collaborative fashion and create a firm that steps into this world here globally and does this. So that's another motivation of mine. Now, when I'm telling you this, I'm not saying, hey, if you get certified, you're going to have a job with me or we're going to partner up or whatever. I'm just telling you there's me and there's 3 other people on the planet right now that I have confidence in their ability to actually use the Sandor model and get results for people. And I can't get to a position of like this with just me and 3 other people. Like I need more people. So that's another part of my motivation here. And whether you choose to work with me or not is irrelevant. I'm just telling you this is my vision, and this is part of the reason why I've developed this program. So here's why getting certified could potentially be a good choice for you. And it's really ultimately up to you. Number 1, supply and demand. I think I gave you a pretty good indication that, hey, there's a lot of them out there, a lot of small businesses. They want what Sandor can give to them, and there aren't many people who can actually do it. And that means that we've got a pretty good position here. Number 2 is that when you go through the certification program, it is a very hands-on program. During certification, you're actually going to be doing Sandor on volunteer clients. And so you will have the most important thing here, which is experience. And that experience will give you confidence. And that experience will give you the ability to get results. And results is what people pay you for. So this certification, as you'll see, isn't just a bunch of education. You get plenty of education, but you're literally going to be doing this during your certification process. And that's a big deal because that will give you the confidence and that'll give you the ability to actually help people. And that's what they're paying you for. So let's cut to the chase and get to the tuition part. It's 6 monthly payments of $3,800. This is by application only. So you can't just buy your way into this. However, when you do become a founding student, you will get a $4,800 discount off of tuition. So if you're interested in that and you want to talk to somebody about it, go to kernclients.com. You should see a link here at the bottom of the screen. There it is. You can just type it in or whatever. Go to kernclients.com. Simple little type form thingy. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And then you can set up a time to talk with us and we'll answer all your questions and basically use the exact same sales process I just outlined, which is, hey, we'll ask you some stuff, make sure we think we can be of benefit to you. And if we can, we'll tell you with 100% certainty, yeah, we're very confident we can help you, and then answer any questions you have. So here's how the actual training works. So class officially begins Monday, January 6th. That's when we really start everything. Founding students, meaning students who enroll prior to the start of the class, you save $4,800 off of your tuition. And class is very limited. And it's limited, again, because this is very instructor-based, as you'll see. You have hands-on work with people in small groups and in a one-on-one environment to do this. And there are only 3 people in the world that are capable of teaching you this right now besides me. So I have to limit the class. If you're interested, again, go to kernclients.com. You can't buy it right now. We do want to talk to you and just make sure that we can actually be of benefit and that we're a good match here. So like I said, you can't just buy your way in. This is definitely by application only, and class is indeed limited. So here's the program in a nutshell. All right. The first 90 days of certification will be spent mastering the Sandor model. And I'll tell you like mechanically how we do that. Your second 90 days is all about getting and serving clients. And you're certified at the end of those second 90 days. Now, I encourage you to start marketing yourself and start getting clients on day 91. So you're not prohibited in any way from trying to go out and work with people or whatever. But you do get actually certified at the end of that second 90 days. So we can really make sure that everything's done properly and that you know your stuff, And plus, we want to be here to help you deal with your sales process, right? So on like day 91, you go out there and you start trying to get clients. You're going to have questions. How do I do this? What should I say? I got a sales call coming up. What are some of the questions I could ask? Here's what somebody told me. So we want to be doing that with you during that second 90 days. Now, in your third 90-day period, I want to certify you in a second certification, which is Kern Direct Response. And you'll be certified in that at the end of those third 90-day period there. And in your fourth 90 days, you'll be certified in intent-based branding. Now, you don't have to take these certifications. I'm just giving them to you because I think they will make you more valuable in the marketplace. And I think they'll give you even more skills to get better results for people, which in my opinion and experience equals more money. People are willing to pay you for better results. So that's why I'm including these two certifications. They are not by any means mandatory in order for you to be Sandor certified. So you can start practicing Sandor and actually marketing to clients and getting clients on day 91. And by the end of your second 90-day period, you are in fact certified in Sandor. So these are essentially bonuses, but I do strongly encourage you to take them because it'll help you. So again, go to kernclients.com and just fill out the little form there. It's just a little type form thingy, and then we can set up a time to make sure that we're a good match and we can help you and answer all your questions. So let's talk about how it actually works in terms of your experience of going through this. So if you were to add all of this up, by the way, this is a years long training, right? So this is a 12-month training process. Again, you don't have to wait until the 12 months is over to start doing stuff, but I really want to make sure that we do the absolute best that we can for you to make sure that you're 100% confident, that you're getting great results for people, and that you've gotten just 11x return on your investment with us in terms of confidence and education and experience and value. And so here's how I'm going to make sure that happens. First of all, I personally teach all of your classes by video online and demonstrate how to use Sandor in real clients and on volunteers. So I walk you through all of everything that you need to know to use Sandor, and then I show you how to use it on real clients, and that's all on video, and you can watch those anytime, whenever. Now is where we start to get deep, though. You're also assigned to a small group, 10 people, with a dedicated instructor, and your instructor is going to be available to you once a week on a live application call. And we do this around your schedule, by the way. So you, small group, live once a week, applying the stuff that you'll learn here in these videos and actually practicing and getting your questions answered and really doing it, which of course equals experience. There's education and then there's action, and action is what equals experience, and experience is what gives you confidence and gives you the ability to get results. So this is all in experience. So during this, you're going to learn the tools. You're going to apply them to your business, which is extremely valuable in and of itself. Then you're going to be learning how to apply this to clients, and you'll be given feedback by your instructor. Additionally, once every month during the Sandor certification part of it, you're going to join your instructor on a practicum call. That sounds so grown up. Basically, that's where you're going to be using Sandor on a volunteer client live, just you and the client and your instructor. There's no audience or anything. There's nothing to be intimidated by, but you're going to get real-time practice and feedback so you can master this and be 100% confident in your abilities. And this is all during your first 90 days. And the reason I'm doing this for you is because once you've actually done it and you've practiced it on a volunteer client, you're going to be like so much better at selling this, which is what we do during your second 90 days of it. So that's why I've structured your certification. And of course, all lessons are recorded and available online. Now, your one-on-one recordings, those are just available to you. That's not made public to anybody else. So don't worry, you're not going to be judged or anything like that. This is literally just you. a volunteer client who's just being really, really cool and giving the time. Of course, there's a lot in it for them too, because they're getting free consulting, and your instructor who's just helping you, right? Like helping you actually do every little piece of this model. So all written materials and tools and worksheets are physically shipped to you, and they're also available online. So you've got all the tools and everything you need. So it's a very simple experience, but it's a very powerful experience, because I'm not just giving you a bunch of videos and saying, good luck, take a test. You're actually doing it, and you're doing it in a very supportive and friendly way. We are here for you. Now, in order to actually earn the certification, pretty simple process. You take a monthly quiz. That quiz is open book. That's just to make sure that you got it. You got the fundamentals. If you show up to class and you get on your live group calls, this will be a breeze for you. Then there's a final exam. That is not open book. If you fail the final exam, you can take it again. I failed a lot of them in my time. So, don't worry about that. You can take it again. The real place where the rubber meets the road is 6 live practice requirements. So once a month during your certification process, you get, like I said, one-on-one with an instructor, and you practice this with a volunteer client. If for whatever reason during one of those months you miss an appointment or you can't do it, it's okay. We'll reschedule it for you. We got you on this, but you need to do those 6 live practice calls one-on-one with your instructor and the volunteer client, because that's what gives you the confidence. That's when it all sinks in. It's one thing like to learn how to read sheet music, and it's another thing to actually play the song. This is you playing the song and like jamming with the band, So by the end of the 6-month Sandor certification program, you're going to have a level of confidence and skill and knowledge that no other school or program can provide, period. And once you're certified, you're going to have the skills and the knowledge to get outstanding results for people, and the knowledge of how to attract and convert clients. So that's certification number 1, right? So that's the main bulk of this. Now I want to talk to you about these extra certifications I'm giving you. And the reason I'm giving you this is, number 1, it keeps us in contact for another 6 months. And number 2, it's just going to genuinely help you and make you more valuable. So the first is direct response certification. And this is your second 90 days. So consider this month 6 through 9. And I break it into 2 parts. The first and most important part, especially as it applies to you helping clients in a consulting environment, is direct response strategy. So I want you to know something. Of all the clients I've had that I use Sandor with, I have written copy for 2 of them. Neither one of them asked me to do it. It was just where I was like, you know what, dude, just let me write it for you real quick, because it was faster and easier for me to do that than it was to like walk them through how to do it. So you can become a marketing person and a marketing consultant using this if you want to, but I don't really think that's where the money is. I think the money is in practicing Sandor and then having the skills and knowledge that you gain from this particular certification to be able to prescribe things to your client for them to go implement on their own or hire someone else to do. So in the strategic side, number 1, competitive research. Clients have no idea. A lot of times, most clients that you'll meet and come across, they just kind of started their business and it sort of succeeded or took off, or they just did it because that was like the family business or whatever, and they have no idea how their competitors are actually operating, what's working outside of their business. So competitive research is huge because it uncovers other ways that businesses can make money that your clients might not have realized. So that's the first thing we're going to cover. I'm going to teach you how to do true marketing math. So in the end part of Sandor, you're already going to know this, but we're going to reinforce this. So marketing math is like how to figure conversion rate, customer value over a 30-day period, a 90-day period, average order value, like really, really important stuff that your clients typically don't know, that once you help them figure out, it blows their mind and you're like the greatest person in the world to them. I'm going to show you how to do results in advance mapping from a strategic marketing standpoint. This is like if clients need to create campaigns and stuff, here's everything I've ever done in terms of marketing, even if it's in a business to consumer environment, is always results in advance. This is creating marketing campaigns that are genuinely helpful to the end user. And speaking of marketing campaigns, you'll learn how direct response sales funnels and processes and diagnostics work. And this is important because a sales funnel or a process is just a bunch of little moving pieces. And your clients are going to come to you and they're going to think that their entire process is broken. And when you know this strategic stuff, you're really able to diagnose and be like, oh, it's actually this one little thing here. And that saves them so much time. It gets some results a lot faster. The second half of this is tactical. And this is where you learn the long form sales copy frameworks. You learn educational video sales letter frameworks. You learn story-based sales frameworks. You'll learn direct sale video frameworks. You'll learn educational, deadline, news-based, and relationship building email sequences. You'll learn how to increase average order value. This one little thing alone, by the way, typically is like a huge needle mover for a client. And you learn super system architecture and automation. And what that means basically is like how to architect and automate entire marketing sequences for people. And I want to say it again. I don't actually do this for people. I just know how to do it, and then I just typically map it out for them. So when I'm in a private client meeting or something, and one of the big things is, oh, you need to bolt on a deadline sequence. I don't write the deadline sequence. I just literally just I have this a giant, what's the company's King flip chart is what it's called. This giant flip chart with this paper on it, and I'll map the whole thing out for them, and I just give it to them, and they go home with this big ass map, and they get someone to implement it. Because it's the architecture here. Knowing what to do is in my opinion the value in terms of having to write stuff for them. But whatever you want to do is cool. So if you want to write copy for people or whatever, you will be certified by me as a Kern direct response person. Which is cool. So once you've got that certification, you're going to have the knowledge to prescribe and create direct response marketing systems and materials that get results. And so that's a 90-day certification process. And it's intense, I mean, you're really learning how to do this stuff. Like you're actually creating copy and you're actually designing systems and you're certified in how to do it. And man, once you actually have gone through it and done it, your skills and direct response will be, you'll be part of the 1% in terms of doing that. Which is cool. I really want that for you. I think you'll enjoy it. And the final certification is intent-based branding. And I think intent-based branding is the most powerful marketing methodology ever. And I think we're in a period of time right now where we've got incredible opportunity to use it and to really grow big brands, both for you personally and for your clients. So first part of it, again, is strategy. That's the most important part. So you've got a client, you're going to know how to research and validate whether or not the market they're going after and talking to is actually the right one. And you do this through competitive research and analysis. So you find out, hey, here's the market they want. What are they responding to? What do they like? This is this part, market psychographics. What are they drawn to? What are they magnetically drawn to? And you figure all of this stuff out for a client. So all of this is strategy. And then you help them create their big idea. And this is really the flagship of their entire brand. This is the main thing they're planting their flag in the ground about. And you help them formulate all of this kind of stuff. And once you do, now you'll learn how to do it on a tactical level, how to actually apply it. So you'll come up with something that's called 3 core pillars with your clients. This is their messaging pillars that their brand is constantly representing and talking about in content. You'll know how to script the content using frameworks. There are 2 of them that you'll learn. There's off the cuff and there's the deep psyche resonance. So you'll be able to do that for clients. You'll know how to create and build a content expansion system. So what that means is a client creates some content and then there's a system that you can prescribe to them that takes one piece of content and turns it into 30 pieces of content. So they're everywhere. You'll know how to build audiences on social media organically, and you'll know how to build audiences on social media from paid ads, and you'll learn how to actually run paid media, like paid media ads, direct response ad campaigns. So you'll learn how to do this and be certified in how to do this. And again, I never actually do this for clients unless they become ad agency clients, which is a totally different animal. But I do know how to prescribe it to them. And that's really the big thing here. So once you're certified in this, you're going to have the knowledge and skill to create and deploy effective intent-based branding campaigns that get results. And that's really huge. And if you combine all three of these certifications, Sandor Power and direct response and intent-based branding, that's literally going to give you a combination of skills and knowledge that less than 1% of the Earth's population has. Like I told you, I invented Sandor. There are 3 people, as of my making this for you, that actually know how to do it besides me. And then you take that and you combine it with direct response certification, and you combine that with intent-based branding certification, and you're in a very, very rare, tiny circle of people with that skill set. And guess who needs and wants that skill set? 2.71 million small businesses. That's a generalization, of course, but a lot more people than there are of us. I can tell you that. If you want this, go to kernclients.com. This is by application only. The founding class is extremely limited in size because I've only got 3 instructors. By the way, your instructors are people who have been doing this with me shoulder to shoulder for a minimum of 2 consecutive years. So these aren't just arbitrary people. These are people who actually do this with me, with clients. So when you have these certifications, they give you something that's far more important than anything else, any clout or anything, and that is the unshakable ability to get results for clients. And really, this is something you cannot unlearn, right? So you could, whatever, a major financial crisis could happen and wipe everybody out, but you will always have the skill. And in my opinion, the skill, this ability to get results, that is something that you can trade on and rely on for the rest of your life. Like, you will never not have a valuable skill that is in demand. So once again, class size super limited because there's only 3 instructors on the planet who are qualified to lead you. So if you're interested, please apply now, kernclients.com. So let's talk about why this is a smart investment. And I use the word investment because I know the price isn't ridiculously high, but it's not, just sort of a whatever price either. So let's compare it to your other options. If you wanted to go into the world of business consulting and just sort of get your part of that $370 billion annual share, you could go down the real degree path. And I did some Google research here. So a bachelor's degree, the annual cost for a 4-year bachelor's degree, like let's say you're trying to get a marketing degree or whatever, it ranges from around 10 grand a year to 25 grand a year. So that's a big range. I guess it depends on how fancy the school is. So that's going to be around 40 to 100 grand for a bachelor's degree. And then welcome to the club. Yay, you got a bachelor's degree. So, now you got to go and you got to get your MBA, master, business administration, which like no one wakes up in the morning saying, if only we had more administration, but whatever, MBAs are fancy, I suppose. So the cheapest one here is 87 grand. I got this online. The most expensive is Wharton. So, now you're into these guys for anywhere between 87,000 and 160 G's. So, add it up and this minimum about 200 grand, right? So which one's going to serve you better in today's economy? Spend years. So what is it, 4 years to get your undergraduate and then another year or 2 to get your MBA? So years and somewhere between 39 grand and 160 learning skills that either don't work. And so, chances are you're already a marketing person. So I think we can both agree that the marketing stuff they teach in school is ridiculous, right? And also then have learned this management stuff that most businesses don't really want, right? So that's door number 1. And I think both of us know people, how many friends do you have with multiple degrees that are bartenders? Not there's anything wrong with being a bartender, by the way. Sometimes I envy the bartenders, but I don't really think it's that valuable. As a matter of fact, I hired a guy off Upwork to build websites for me, and I was checking him out, and dude's got an MBA, and he's building websites on Upwork. Does a great job, but he didn't need an MBA to do that, or you could get Sandor certified. In 90 days, you will master Sandor, and you'll have the skills and knowledge and confidence to meet the incredible demand for consultants who can actually deliver. At the end of your second 90 days, you'll have mastered the art of client acquisition and you'll be certified in Sandor. Which one's going to do you better? In my opinion, it's door number 2 there. to, be one of the very few people on the planet who can actually do this using this methodology. If you would like to be part of this very tiny group of elite people, go to kernclients.com. It's super simple. Ask your name, phone number, email address, ask you if you're aware of the price and if you can actually pay it, because I don't want to take your last dollar or anything. And if you're willing to make a decision, and then if you are, we schedule a call with the office. It takes 5 seconds to go here and fill out the little stuff, So go to kernclients.com. Now, speaking of the word investment, what's the purpose of any investment? It's to get a return, right? So you hope, and it's my hope, that you get a huge return on your investment here. But remember earlier when I asked you, hey, what do you want to charge for one client? And I don't know what that answer was, but let me ask you a question. Is one client worth more than your total investment? What about 2? What about 3? We're going to be working together for a year. Do you think that you can get at least one client during our time together? Maybe 2, maybe 3. I hope so, right? Like if you can't, one of us has done something wrong. I can tell you, you've got our full commitment, me and your instructors and my entire team. You've got our full commitment to help you. We are here for you. This is not just okay, you're done, see you later. I mean, we're spending 12 months helping you. You're ready to go on day 91. The other however many days of the year that is, that's us helping you, So it's together. I think we can help you do it. It's certainly, we're going to do the absolute very best we can on our end to help you. So if the math makes sense there, if you're like, gosh, it doesn't really take that many clients for me to have gotten a return on this investment, and you've got the confidence to think you can at least get a few to cover that, and you have the confidence in me to help you do that, then this is a no-brainer, right? So go to kernclients.com, fill out the little form. You can ask us all the questions you want. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you make the decision of, is this smart or is it not? And if it's not, it's okay. We're not in the high pressure business. Here are some common freakouts, right? So right now you're considering stepping out of what is comfortable, potentially. Now, some people are like, no brainer, let's go, right? But some folks that watch this will be like, okay, this is outside of my comfort zone, and your brain is going to try to protect you. That's what it does, and it's going to give you these little freakouts, and it's going to give you reasons why maybe this is, a scary thing. And one of them I hear all the time is, of course you can do this because you're Frank Kern. You've been here since 1999, and you have an established, career and all of this stuff. And to you, I would say, yes, this is all true. I do have an advantage. And that's great. And there is only one of me, and there are 2.71 million people in our target market just in the United States alone. I really should do the global math. I need to hire someone to figure that out, because I couldn't find out. I didn't have enough time on Google to find out how many global businesses do over $1 million in sales every year. But it's huge, right? So you don't have to be me. As a matter of fact, a couple weeks before I built this for you that you're watching right now, my wife, Natalia, she had a presentation to give to a group of ladies, and she runs a project that supports women in wanting to grow both personally in a personal development way, and in their relationships. And some of them wanted to learn about entrepreneurial stuff because some of the ladies that are her clients have businesses. And so she was like, I need to give this business presentation to them tomorrow. What do you think I should talk about? And I said, you should run them through Sandor. You should explain the Sandor model to them, and just kind of, so I think she had like 45 minutes or an hour. It's like a little Zoom call, a video conference thing. And there were, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen people on there, just nice, casual, easygoing thing. So she runs them through the Sandor model. Now she's in bed. It's like 10 o'clock the night before. And she's like, yeah, I think I will. Good Lord, we've been doing it together all this time with all these clients. That's a great idea. So she does it. She builds a slideshow. She calls it the Kern method, and I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, the Kern method. But I like Sandor better because it actually makes sense with all the steps and everything. So long story short, she teaches them, and then she gets this, right? And check this out. So she runs folks through Sandor, and this is someone, and this lady's got a business. So she's at the end of the 6 weeks. So she didn't go through 6 weeks of Sandor. This person, Natalia's program with her partner Sandy, it's a 6 week program, and Sandor was one lesson during that 6 week process. And the rest of the 6 weeks are about relationships and parenting and all of this other kind of stuff, right? So just the Sandor part. Here's what she writes. After going deep in the numbers, as Natalia taught us to do, our sales increased by 15%. We turned off all campaigns that weren't profitable, decreasing expenses by 50%, and realized most of our sales come from repeated customers. Now is the time to scale. Cash flow increased by almost 65%. Okay, that is classic Sandor right there. Now, what's really interesting is what Natalia taught them. That could have just been a webinar. And now she could have followed up with all these people and said, hey, would you like to become a client? And a lot of them would have said yes. What do you think the chances are of this lady saying yes? Pretty high. So you don't have to be me. It's not about me. It's about the model. Sandor is very, very powerful. When you use it on people, whether it's as a client or as an educational pre-selling thing in your process, it helps people. And when you help people, they want you to help them more. So it's all about the model. I'm just some guy, right? You don't have to be me, nor would you want to. You're you, and I want to help you grow your brand and your presence in this industry, because let me tell you, there's way more demand than me or you or 100 other people could ever meet for this kind of stuff. Now, another common freak out is, yeah, but I don't have any credentials. And I would tell you, welcome to the club. I don't either. So earlier I was talking about math, and the end part of the Sandor model is the numbers. I'm like, it's funny that numbers are involved here. And the reason why is because I failed math. So no, I don't have any credentials either. I graduated high school because I like the Grateful Dead. So I'm like, there's one person, this is like a week before graduation, and there was one person, and she had control of my destiny of whether or not I graduated high school, and it was my math teacher for 12th grade. It was called college algebra, even though I was in regular high school. I don't know why they named it that. It was called Frank Doesn't Pay Attention in Class, and failed. So I'm standing before her. And this is before everything was computerized. So she had the ledger out, and it had all the grades on there. And it was all written in pencil. I don't know why it was always written in pencil, but whatever, right? So we're standing there. And she goes, you need to pass this class to graduate high school. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm thinking, here comes the lecture. And she looks at me and she goes, you've always been my favorite deadhead. I'm a deadhead too. And I'm watching her, and as she says this, she erases the F and changes it to a C minus, and she goes, get out of here. And that's how I graduated high school. I ain't got any credentials either. I went to college for the minimum amount of time you can go before being kicked out for not attending school. I do not have a single professional credential of any kind at all. When I give talks to grown-ups, so I've been invited to give talks to regulatory bodies, and I'm actually invited to go speak weirdly at a law school about marketing here, which is going to be exciting. I always, whenever I have to talk to strangers that have credentials, I introduce myself by saying, hi, my name is Frank Kern, and I have no professional credentials of any kind, and probably no one should listen to me about anything for any reason. But for some reason, here we are, and today here's what we're going to talk about, and no one ever cares. They're like, okay, what's in it for me? All people care about is, can you get them results or not? And you don't get them. You don't do it by convincing them you can. You do it by demonstrating them that you can. And that's what our sales process is all about. So when you learn Sandor, your second 90 days is all about just how to demonstrate that through your sales process by actually getting people results in advance of them ever talking to you. And so no credentials conversations ever come up, which is great. So here's another one. I'm not fancy, right? So if you don't have the requisite Lamborghini or whatever to stand in front of on Instagram, it might be bothering you. You might be thinking, well, I have to, do all of this posturing and stuff. And I'll tell you, you know what? You don't at all. And not only do you not have to do it, it doesn't do you any good. And the reason I know is because I've done it. So, and I'm a slow learner, by the way. So the first time I ever took on retainer-based consulting clients was when I tested that thing where people paid 10 grand a month and they would come to California, which is where I lived at the time, and they would meet with me for 4 hours a month. And I had no idea what I was doing. I knew all the direct response stuff that I knew at the time, which was a lot. So I was a marketing consultant. It hadn't dawned on me yet that is, actually finding getting rid of the dumb stuff and doing more of the smart stuff is way more important than a headline. I didn't know that yet. So I didn't know how to do consulting stuff, but I said, well, I'll figure it out and hopefully they'll be happy. And one of the things I thought would be impressive, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I was like, if we can have clients picked up at the airport in a Rolls Royce, and if we can do the consulting sessions in like an unbelievable oceanfront environment, then they're going to really be happy, and maybe they won't be upset at the fact that we're horribly disorganized and have no idea what we're doing. I was doing this with my cousin at the time, who's also brilliant, extremely brilliant marketing guy. So I go out and I lease the Rolls-Royce Phantom Coupe. We hire a lady named Dawn to go and pick people up at the airport. We leased a house. It was a 4-story oceanfront house on a cliff that I think the damn thing cost like $11 million or something is what it was on the market for. But we leased this thing for 6 months to meet with clients in. All right. And it looked like the Iron Man house. It wasn't quite that huge, but the house in Iron Man, that's what it looked like. So we do all of this stuff, right? And at the time I had the Rolls, and I had a 1983 Jeep Scrambler, which I still have, and I had a 1968 Volkswagen bus. So clients get picked up in the Rolls. They're delivered at the house. We're meeting with them. Here's what would happen inevitably. Dude, is that a Volkswagen bus? Can we go to lunch in that thing? This is awesome. Oh, they could give two dams about the fancy car or the fancy. I mean, they were like, hey, this is a really cool place. I'm like, I know. And then, all right, let's get results. And that was the end of that. And then it was, what's for lunch? Can we take the bus? So here's the reason I tell you I'm a slow learner. In 2017, October of 2017, I started Private Client Group. It sold out extremely fast. It was amazing. And so I'm like, you know what I think I should do? Is I should go get a Rolls-Royce Phantom for people to get picked up and driven to where we're going to meet. And not only should I do that, but I should lease like a big, fancy, all glass, like modern looking office where clients come, because I had a lot of clients and we were doing the 6, they would have 3 2-day meetings and I had multiple groups, so that was like, anyway, I should have like this home base for them. So I go and I get the Phantom. And I lease the office space, and it's like the office, 25 grand a month for this stupid office space, which was beautiful. And then I furnish it, and I even get desks, these huge tables that you could actually write on. They were like dry erase tabletops and all of this kind of stuff, And I get them, and people were like, "Oh man, that's cool, wow, car, Phantom, neat." And they took the requisite selfies and everything. And then I decided to move, and I decided to move from California to Miami. And there was no more office, and I still have the Phantom, but we'd get some of them, but most of the time we would have the meetings in a hotel meeting space. So there really wasn't anywhere for me to drive them. They would be at a hotel and take an elevator downstairs to the meeting space. Absolutely nobody cared. Not a single client said, "Where's the Rolls?" No one gave a damn. So now all of the meetings are just in a hotel meeting space. There's like nobody cares about any of that fancy stuff. I have split tested it in real life. They don't care. What they care about is, can you get me more of what I want? And can you make the stuff that I don't want go away? And I'm like, yes, that's what they care about. And so if you can demonstrate you can do that for them, and then you can actually do it for them, you don't need any of that fancy stuff at all. You need a notepad, a pen, a calculator, and your brain and a quiet space to work. Or a laptop connection and Zoom. I like to do it over video. And that's it. And then here's another one, right? But I'm not rich. Like, who am I? If I'm not $1 million business, who am I to be giving advice to $1 million business? They're not asking you if they're rich. They're asking you to get them out of pain. right? So it's really simple to fall into that trap to be like, well, I can't advise people who are more successful than me. I've got a client still work with them sometimes. They do $500 million a year in revenue. 500 million. It's ridiculous. Like, that's so much money. And they listen to everything I tell them because I know how to do something they don't, which is to see the forest through the trees most of the time. Like, I'm able to go in there and run stand door and be like, oh man, okay, yeah, you got these 900 million things going on. Here's the thing that's actually working the best. Here's how to make it work better. Focus just on that. And they're like, okay, thank you. All the painful stuff is now diminished and the fun stuff is now amplified. Thank you very much. See you later. I'm like, cool, awesome. Thank you. Nobody cares. I don't suggest that you position yourself as some fancy person. I suggest you position yourself as, hey, if you are a small business and you're doing $1 million or whatever, and you've got all of these problems and you want them to go away, here are some things that can help you. And then you start teaching content and then they come to you and that's it, right? So no one cares. Your prospects, they don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is, can you help me? And guess what your sales process is in terms of getting clients? Nothing but repeated demonstrations of how you can help people by actually helping them. If that sounds like a great way to get clients to you, it sounds like a great way to be paid, and it sounds like a great way to provide value to the world, and you want to participate in that, go to kernclients.com. Again, this is an application-only experience. I know that this isn't perfect for everybody. I know you've got questions. We want to answer them for you and help you make a decision of whether or not this is right for you. And either answer is okay. There is no pressure. However, there is a time factor, which is class is limited. It's me and 3 other people on the planet that can help facilitate this stuff. And so therefore we can't take a lot of people in this first round. So in order for me to say thank you for 2 things, number one, putting your faith in me and your trust in me and being willing to work together over the course of the next 12 months doing this, and for taking early action, I'm willing to shave off $4,800 of your tuition. So go to kernclients.com. Fill in the little form there. It'll ask you a couple questions. And if you say, yes, I understand that here's the investment and I can do this, it's not going to kill me. And yes, I'm willing to make a decision, then set up a time to talk and we'll answer all the questions you got and we'll help you. And whatever your decision is okay, right? We're just here to help. And if that whole feeling feels good to you, and if that's the way you want to sell, and if you want to bring people in and deliver value like I hopefully have delivered value to you today in advance of ever having them be your client, this is it, right? This is the greatest business in the world. Sandor is an unbelievably powerful model. You will be one of the very few people in the world who are certified to use it and who can actually get these types of results for clients with the speed and impact that you can. And it's a good feeling knowing that there's one of you and there's millions of them. It's great. And I hope you join me. And I look forward to helping you soon. And I thank you for your time and your investment of your time today in watching all of this. So go to kernclients.com, fill out the little questionnaire thingy, and let's set up a time, get together and make sure this is a good move.